Hey guys, welcome back. So in the last video we have worked on the design part of this project. As you can see, we have displayed our codes using this dummy data. So if you want to follow along, please make sure to go to my YouTube channel, and from this playlist you can watch the previous videos. Okay, in this video you will learn how to make GET request and POST request using React Query and Axios. Alright, now let's get started. I just come back to my VS Code, and inside here we need to add a new folder. I'm gonna call that page contact, and inside here we need to have a new file called pagecontact.jsx. Okay, so in here at first we need to import Axios. If you haven't installed Axios, just open the terminal and navigate to your directory, and then write npm install Axios. Okay, I've already installed that, and you can do this way. Now we need to have a base URL for our API, so I'm gonna write here const base URL is equal to import.meta.env.with base URL. So this URL will come from the .env file. Now we need to create that .env file here. Make sure to add your .env file in the global folder, not inside the source. As you can see, I have a .env file here. Just open that, and inside here just copy your variable name here and paste your URL. In this case, this is gonna be our API URL. Okay guys, now we are ready to make our HTTP request. And at first we need to fetch all the data and display that inside our application. Okay, now I'm gonna write here export const get all data is equal to arrow function. Inside here we need to have a try and catch block. This is gonna be an asynchronous function. Now inside this try you need to write const response is equal to await axios.get, and we need to write here a template string. At first we are gonna have our base URL and our path here, API and contact. Okay, now inside this error we are gonna console log this error here, and finally we need to return this response.data. Alright, now to fetch data in our application we need to install a new library which is React Query. So just open your terminal, and in here you need to write npm install React Query. Okay, once you have installed that, you need to come to your main.jsx here, and you need to import something from React Query. The first one is gonna be query client, and the second one is gonna be query client provider. So at first we need to make a variable here, const query client is equal to new query client, and now we need to wrap our application with this query client provider, and just pass this client to be equal to query client. So this is just the setup of React Query. Now we have access to React Query in our application. Okay, now I need to open this contacts file. As you can see, we have our dummy data in here. So inside here we need to import a function called useQuery from React Query, and now we need to write here const data is loading is error is equal to useQuery. At first we need to have a key for this request, and we need to write this function which we just write inside this fetch contact.jsx. Okay, so the data is what data we are receiving from the backend. Is loading is when the application is loading, and is error is when there is something wrong with the API. Okay, so now I'm gonna console log this data. Let's see what we have inside. If I refresh the page and inspect the browser here, Okay, we have an error. That's because we have double slash here, so we need to remove one of them. I just come back and I need to remove this slash from here. You can see that we have successfully fetched the data from our API. The status is success, and we have a variable here, all contacts, which is currently empty. Okay, now to print this empty array, we need to come back here, and following this data, we need to write all contacts. Now if I refresh the page, you can see we have empty array. Alright, I'm gonna delete this console log, and down here we need to change this data1 to be data only. Okay, now if I refresh the page, you can see we have an error here. So to fix this error, you need to write a question mark beside this data.map. Alright, now if you refresh the page, you can see we don't have that error anymore. Now we need to come back here, and at first we need to display some data when our application is loading. So I'm gonna write here an object, and I'm gonna say is loading. So if the application is loading, we need to print a paragraph saying loading. Okay, I'm gonna copy and paste that, and I'm gonna write here if the application is giving us error, we need to print this something went wrong. Alright, now let's check that. You can see if I refresh the page, and you can see there's loading text here. Alright, now you can see that our database is currently empty. So when there is nothing inside our database, we want to display a text here. So I'm gonna come back here, and before this data we need to set a condition. We are gonna say if data question mark dot length is equal to 0, we want to display this paragraph no contacts exist. Otherwise we want to display our data. Okay, now I'm gonna come back. You can see we have a text no contact exists. It means that our database is empty. Okay, alright, now let's work on the form part. As you can see, we have our forms here. So I'm gonna come back to the VS Code and open this add contact. At first we need to have a useState hook to display all the data from our inputs. So I'm gonna write here contact set contact is equal to useState, and inside here we need to have an object. So we are gonna write all the inputs name here. Okay, we have write all the names of our inputs here, and now we need to pass them to our inputs. So I'm gonna write here a value to be contact.fullname, and we need to have an onChange here to change our input. So our onChange will get an event here. Following that, we need to have a set contact. Now we need to print whatever data exists inside this contact, and just change this full name to be e.target.value. Okay, now I'm gonna copy this value and onChange and paste them inside other inputs. Now we need to change these names. Okay, but for the last input, which is file, for our image uploading, we don't need this value, and we just need this onChange here. Okay, and I'm gonna change this image to be e.target.files. Okay, we have changed all the data here. Okay, we need to change the values here. Alright guys, we have changed all the data now, and now we need to have a function here to submit our form. So now I'm gonna write here const handle submit, and I need to write here on submit inside this form and paste this function here. Now if I refresh the page and if I click this button, you can see we have a refresh here. So to stop this auto refresh, you need to come back and inside this function just write e.prevent default. It will help us stop this auto refresh inside a form. Now I'm gonna come back here. You can see if I click this button, we are not seeing this refresh anymore. Alright, now let's see if we can print our data from this inputs or not. So I'm gonna write here console log and I'm gonna write contact here. So let me fill all the inputs. Now if I click this button, you can see that all the data from our inputs has been printed here. Alright, it means that our form is completely ready. Okay. Alright, now we need to create a new function to post a new data. So I just come back here and at first I'm gonna write here create a new contact. Okay. Now export const add contact equal to this arrow function. I think here again try catch block, and this time we need to receive data from our form. If you remember, we are going to send this contact as data to this function. Okay, so now inside this function the first step is going to be uploading the image and the second step is going to be upload our text. So now let's upload the image. So in here we are going to say if there is any image, it means if we have selected any image inside the form, then we need to create a new form data in here. Now we need to write a name for this form data. So I'm going to write here const image name is equal to date.now plus data.image.name. This is going to be our image name. And now we need to append this name to our form data. I'm going to write here form.append. The name of this image is going to be image name. And now the file of this image is going to be data.image. So this data.image is coming from our useState hook, if you remember. Okay, finally we need to reassign our data.image to our new image name. Okay. Now down here we need to send this data to our API using post request. So I'm going to write here try catch block again. And inside here we need to have await access.post. So we need to write the base URL here. Following that, you need to write API and upload. So if you remember, when we were uploading the image, we had these route names, right? So now following that, we need to send our data. So inside this error, we are going to write true error and error. Okay. Now our uploading image is completed. Down here inside this next try and catch, we need to send our text. So in here I'm going to write const response is equal to await access.post, again base URL, API contact, and we have create route here. So if you remember, inside these routes we have a post request and the route is create, right? Following that, we need to send this data to our backend API. Finally, we need to return this response dot. Okay, we need to get this variable from here, response dot new contact. And finally, we need to write a throw error to error in this catch. Okay. And now our function is completely ready. Now I'm going to come back to our form here, and at first we need to import useMutation from React query, and down here we need to write add new contact. Now we need to destructure something from useMutation hook. So always remember that when you want to display some data, you need to use useQuery. But if you want to send some data to the backend, you need to write useMutation inside React query. Okay. So now we need to get muted is loading and is error from this useMutation. And now we need to import our function here, this add contact. Okay. And finally, we need to have a block. Inside this block, we need to have an on-axis, this arrow function, and from here we need to console log our data. Okay. Okay, as you can see, we have muted is loading and is error here. So muted is a function that will help us pass the data to our server. So down here, I'm gonna write muted. And inside here we need to write this contact. Finally, once we click this submit button, we want to redirect to the main page. So to do that, I'm going to come back. So we need to import use navigate from React Router DOM like I did here, and I'm going to copy this navigate from here and write that inside this function. And we need to choose our directory here. So in this case, it's gonna be this slash, which means the home page. Okay. Now let's check our form. Now if I click this button, you can see I am redirected to the main page, but we don't have any data here. As soon as I refresh the page, you can see that we have the data displayed here. Okay, we have a problem with the image. So now to fix this problem, we need to go back to our server code, and inside here we need to make a route, and inside here we need to make a path for our image. Okay, so first of all, open the terminal and navigate to the server folder here, and inside here you need to install this path. Okay, I have already installed that. Now to make a path here, you need to write app.use. The first parameter is gonna be this /upload route, comma express.static. Now we need to import that path here. Okay. Following that, inside this parentheses, you need to write path.join, the your name, and upload. It means that we are connecting the name of our image with this upload route. Okay. Now let's see how it works. So at first I'm gonna get the name of our image. I'm gonna come back to the contacts and console log this data here. You can see that our image name is this one. So I'm gonna copy that. And in here we need to open a new tab. So our server URL is localhost 5000 following this upload, if you remember, and we need to write our image name here. As soon as I click enter, you can see that the image is displayed. It means that we have successfully made a path for our image. But don't forget to add this request.body.name, otherwise it will not work. Okay. So now let's display that inside React. So at first I'm gonna open this .env file here. Again we need to have a URL. This time it's gonna be image URL, okay? And the URL is gonna be this. But following that we need to write /upload, if you remember here. And after this slash, our image name will be, okay? So I'm gonna come back to the contact here, and we need to receive this URL from our .env file. Again I'm gonna copy here and paste this, and I need to change our variable name to this name. Okay, Now all you need to do is just write here folder plus image. You can see that we have successfully displayed our image inside the browser. Okay, now let's check it again with a new user. Okay, here is a new problem. Is when I click this button, if I don't refresh the page, I can't see any data in here. Okay, so to solve that problem, we need to open add contact again, and we need to import a new function from React Query. It's called useQuery client, and down here we need to write a new variable for that called query client is equal to useQuery client. Okay, and in here you need to delete this data and change this console log to be query client dot invalidate queries, and inside this parentheses you need to copy this key from useQuery. Okay, and now let's check it again. If I click the submit button, you can see without refreshing the page, we have successfully displayed the data in the browser. Alright guys, that's it for this video. I hope it was helpful for you. In the next video, we will work on delete and update our database.